My name is Ewart Walters, and you're watching The Griot in Me.
Hello everyone, my name is Andy Saint-Hilaire, and today you are watching the Griot in Me channel. Today I have the pleasure to meet a very important member of our community. I want to introduce you, Mr. Ewart Walters. Hi, how are you?
I am all right, thank you very much.
Thank you for coming here today.
You're welcome.
Thank you. So today we want to know more about you, about yourself, about what you did in the community, and we want to let the people at home also know more about yourself. So let's get right to it. So tell us a little bit more about you. When did you get here in Canada?
1964.
1964. Which country are you coming from?
Jamaica.
Okay. And how old were you? And what were your first impression of the city?
I was 24. My first impressions were that it was a clean city. They washed the city streets. I'd never seen that before. And it was easy to get around in. Lots of green spaces and parks, and the bus service was excellent.
Okay. So, what did you study in school, and how did you end up where you are? Tell us more about your background.
I did journalism. I did a bachelor's in journalism, ended in '68. Went back to Jamaica, practiced, and came back and did a master's in '79.
Okay. So you went back to Jamaica, you
Yes.
said? Okay. How long?
9 years.
Okay, cool. So now you studied journalism and you started working. What is your background as, what career did you pursue?
Well, I'm a journalist.
Mm-hmm.
I've also worked as a public servant.
Mm-hmm.
I've worked in access to information and privacy. I worked as a diplomat, and I've done photography. I've worked as a photographer. I've done anything that I could do in the context of returning here after one posting to the US and couldn't get a job in journalism, and starting the Spectrum, the newspaper that I published here for the black community for 29 years.
Okay. So as I said, a very important member of our community as a journalist. So tell us, what challenge did you face and how did you overcome them being an immigrant in the world of journalism here in Canada?
The main challenge for me was to be qualified. So I got qualified by having the degrees. Then the other challenge was to sell those degrees to Canadian media. That did not work. And when that did not work, I looked around at the black community in Ottawa and I looked around at all the communities in Ottawa and saw that many of them had their own institutions. Mm-hmm. The Italian community had a church, they had the Italian language, they had a newspaper. Those were elements that bound them together in their entity. The Jews had their newspapers, they have synagogues, they have languages, they have a religion, a number of those other groups. But not so the blacks. The blacks had no common language. They had the language of the oppressors, French, English, Spanish, Portuguese, whatever. They had their various churches. There was nothing that bound them together. There was no newspaper that bound them together. There was nothing. Several organizations, several groups of people. And so I thought I would start an institution that could be of use to the black community at large.
Nice. So getting them together, getting the community, the black community together, how rewarding that would that have
Say
been.
that again, what?
What kind of pride that you had in putting the people together?
Pride?
Yeah.
Well,
was it rewarding?
You have to know that I am the son of 2 elementary school teachers. Mm-hmm. So these are people who set high goals. Mm-hmm. And what they did for the people with whom they worked rubbed off on me. Mm-hmm. And when I started the paper, I had been working with the Jamaica High Commission for 5 or 6 years. So I knew the people, I was a member of the cricket club. I had done a lot of things in the community by then. But I saw the need. So it wasn't so much a matter of pride as a matter of knowing that there was something to be done, and I would do it.
Okay. Next question would be about how did your work change over time, like the journalism or work field. How did it change over time with technology, for example, today?
Well, it started here really for me with being the editor of the Carleton, which was the Charlatan, the newspaper at Carleton University in 1965. And the technology was that we would write up our stories, we'd get a man to come in and he would take the stories and he would bring back the newspapers. That was the technology of the time. So when I started the Spectrum, I called that man and we spoke to him. But technology changed and we moved from that type of hot metal printing into paste up and that kind of stuff. So we now moved into the age of computers where you could design the paper on the computers, and he did that and they brought that. But when it came to about the time that it was going to mean that I would do the whole production, the advertising support for the paper dried up after 28, 29 years, and we had to stop.
Okay.
If I were to do it again, I would suggest that, yes, you'd have to go online, but also the people who have been readers of the Spectrum love to feel and see the paper. It's something they can hold on to. It's tangible. So there is also that to consider.
Okay. You said that you were born in a family of two elementary school parents, and your parents were teachers, actually?
Yes.
And they always push you to give the best of yourself.
Yes.
What other things in life motivates you or inspires you?
My own need, I guess I should say my own love for justice. Wherever there's a case of injustice, I get active. And I was able to deal with that very well through the Spectrum. There was a man called Vincent Gardner who was shot by police in '92. And we had a story on that shooting every month for 5 years until the cover-up that was being attached to the event disappeared, and a jury said he died from a policeman's bullet. They were trying to cover that up, and we, every month for 5 years, I think we missed 1 month. At the end of that time, the Ottawa Citizen wrote a story about it, and the writers got all sorts of awards. They hadn't been covering it. Nobody said anything to us.
You said that for you justice is very important.
Oh, yes.
How does it make you feel seeing, for example, some police brutality that's being happening in North America, and how black young men are being treated?
How does it
make you feel? What would you say?
Well, you have to continue fighting, and you have to continue fighting constructively. You have to fight by changing laws. You have to fight by putting the right people in government in charge of you, because government is us. That's what government is. Government is an expression of the people. It was taken away from the popes and the landowners and the kings with Magna Carta in what, 1015 or something. And the power was given to us through rule of law. We are the people who rule. But there's always a sense, and it's happening now, you see it in the United States, where there are people who want to take that away from you. So it's a continuing struggle.
Okay. There's so many movements right now in 2020, like, for example, Black Lives Matter, that are here to fight those injustices. How important is it to do the right things and to have those movements keep moving forward?
It's very important. You know, in 2014 or 2015, the United Nations set up the decade for black people.
Yeah, the African, the International Decade of...
UNPAD.
Yeah.
And they tried to come, they sent a group to Canada. The government who was in charge of Canada at the time didn't allow them to come in. But when, after the election, they were allowed to come in, and there was a meeting at 219 Argyle where these experts from the UN came and spoke to us. So, large group of people, black people. And out of that, I think we might have about maybe a dozen black groups that have sprung up in Ottawa since then. And I think this is one of them.
Yeah.
Black Agenda Noir is one of them. There are several black groups. The important thing is that they're all talking together. And they have solicited and enlisted the support of black members of parliament. They are talking to people on city council. They're talking to people in the provincial government. A big conversation around black and black issues has begun and is continuing, and that is important. All the groups are necessary. I can't do what some of the other groups are doing. Some of the other groups can't do what I am doing, but all of this is going to the right end.
Okay. One thing also is, last question about that, is that many of those groups are being led by young people, a young generation. What would you say to those young people? What advice would you give them?
Keep on doing what you're doing. Learn as much as you can about you know, your environment, the legal environment, the social environment, all the environments. Do everything that you can. Don't stop. Don't flag. Keep it up.
Okay. After so many years in the journalism world, after so many years of covering so many different stories in the city of Ottawa, what if there's one thing that you would change about the city, what would it be?
I would encourage as many young black people to run for office.
Why? Can you develop more about that? That's a very interesting answer.
Canada is a country that believes in leaders of groups. It comes out of their experience with the Aboriginals. They want to talk to Aboriginal leaders. They don't, if we think that we can vote for somebody over there because that is a good person who may not be black, that is not a bad idea, that is a good idea, but it's better when the person is actually black because that person has lived a black experience. And what has been happening is that all of the methods and mechanisms that have come up to multiculturalism or embracing change or any of those employment equity things have not had the effect on black people that they should have. A lot of people have been going forward. Black people are still at the bottom. So that's one of the reasons for the formation of Black Agenda Noir, to make sure that the black agenda remains on the national radar.
Okay. This is the second time that you mentioned the Black Agenda Noir. Can you tell us a little bit more for the people at home watching, what is the Black Agenda Noir?
Black Agenda Noir is a small group of people, black people, but the distinctness of that group is as follows. It is bilingual, that is French and English. It has members from various parts of the black world: Haiti, Jamaica, Côte d'Ivoire, Somalia, Kenya, and I think there are others. So for the first time in Ottawa, when we started about 5 years ago, we had a coming together of two large black groups. The old black group and the new black group in the person of the Somalis. The Somalis came to Ottawa in large groups when they came, so they didn't need to coalesce at the time with the older black group, and that schism had remained. In Black Agenda Noir, there is a coming together there, and I welcomed it when I was asked to come and speak with them.
Okay. What did your work has taught you about yourself or about other people around you?
My world?
Work.
My work?
Yeah. As a journalist or also as a member of Black Agenda Noir, what did you learn about yourself and the people around you?
Well, you know, I am getting close to my 80th year. So I didn't learn much about myself during the Black Agenda Noir times. But I learned over the years that there are things that I could do. It doesn't take a team, it doesn't take an army to do certain things. It takes sometimes one person to either say the right thing, do the right thing, approach the right person, and that can develop in the snowballing effect. So don't be afraid to step out as an individual and make yourself and your views known.
Thank you. In the West African world, a griot is a storyteller. It's somebody that tells stories to make sure that the tradition gets passed to the next generation to make sure it doesn't die. How important it is in 2020 to have some griot in a community?
It is always important. You know, about 25 years ago, I was asked to speak during Black History Month to black students, Caribbean black students at Carleton University. And I told them a story about an event in 1969 that happened in Montreal. I was shocked that none of them knew about it. It was a computer center at George Williams University that went up in fire when some black students were discriminated against by Professor Anderson in biology class. None of them had heard about it, and it had such an impact on black relations, black and white relations in Canada, not just in Montreal, for such a long time. So that story, those stories need retelling all the time. New, younger people don't know them. We have to find a way to make sure those stories are presented to them in a way that they can understand, in a way that they can get a sense of their history, where they're coming from, and so that it can impact how they look at current affairs.
Okay. So, Mr. Walters, it was a pleasure having you on the set today. I hope the people at home had the opportunity to learn as much as I did, because it was very inspirational, very a lot of things to learn. So, again, I give you the final word, and you can tell whatever you want to the people at home. Thank you.
Keep on doing what you're doing and spread the word about this program. I'm not sure it is as well known yet as it should be, but we need it.
Thank you.
So spread the word.
Thank you. Then I hope the people at home will spread the word also, and I hope that they will share the video and they will help us get more views. So don't forget to share, like, and subscribe to the video. I hope you had a good day. Thank you very much for coming again.
Okay.
Thank you.